To better understand the folly of E in ESG, I'd like to introduce you to Mark Morano, publisher of ClimateDepot.com and author of a new book, Green Fraud: Why the Green New Deal is Even Worse Than You Think. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you. Happy to be here today, Kevin. Thank you so much.
You know, those that are big on climate change describe you as the #1 climate denier on the planet. How do you respond to that?
Well, that was a study in the journal Nature, peer-reviewed. You don't challenge peer-reviewed. They said I was the #1 most cited climate skeptic in the world in the media. And I don't know. I don't really have much of a response, except it's in a form of intimidation. What they've done with these lists that they come out with, they try to identify someone. And the idea is, this is like, hey, Google, hey, YouTube, hey, Facebook. These are the people you should be censoring. And the Biden administration, of course, has done that openly. And now, of course, we have the censorship hitting us hard on Facebook. YouTube just announced they're going to be demonetizing and restricting climate deniers. So I think one of the reasons they try to tout is a name like build me up as #1 is so they can then tear me down and try to silence and deplatform and make me go away.
But you're not going away. You've been around for a while. You've written several books. You've worked at the right committees in Congress. You're doing the right stuff. And that's why we're turning to you. I mean, they tell us we have to follow the science on COVID. Everybody's got to follow. Tell us, what happens if we follow the science? What do we learn from science about climate change?
Well, it's great. I always say, don't follow. You can follow the science, just not the scientific institutions, because what's happened is NASA's now lead scientists from NASA. First of all, the global warming scientists got arrested half a dozen times. 2 lead scientists have come out and said white supremacy is causing climate change. So these have all been corrupted, all these organizations, the funding, the intimidation, the bullying. At the EPA right now, Kevin, this is an amazing story. 50 scientists, nearly 50, were just purged because they don't agree with Joe Biden's climate Green New Deal agenda. So guess what? Next year or 6 months from now, we're going to hear about all the scientists at the EPA. It's 100% consensus. When you purge people who don't agree, then you have 100% consensus. And that's what they're doing. So in essence, you should trust the science, but I would not trust the organs that are telling you. Don't trust the media, the United Nations, World Health Organization, which has declared climate the #1 public health threat. You need to trust the data, and you need to trust the Earth's geologic history, and you need to trust your own eyes. And here's what I mean by that. If you look at all the data, even in United Nations reports, the underlying data is shocking. They go through and they tell you there's low confidence, no increase in floods, hurricane storms, tornadoes, wildfires. They admit all this in the fine print. So the idea that man-made climate change is causing extreme weather is not supported in the underlying UN report. The summary for policymakers is they come up with all these scary statements, predictions. They have each line is agreed to. But if you look at the Earth's history, we're in the coldest 10% geologically speaking. We probably have cooled since the Roman warming period of about 0 AD. We've cooled, or about the same as the medieval warming period from about 1000 AD. And yes, we have warmed since the end of the Little Ice Age in 1850. And yes, we have warmed since the 1970s when they were worried about the global cooling. But in the 1970s, I spent a whole chapter in my book detailing, Kevin, that the solutions to man-made global cooling at the time were the same today. Treaties, sovereignty limiting, going after capitalism, regulations, and they said it was a national security threat if we got colder. They said bad weather was caused by cold. Just the same old, same old.